Welcome back, everyone. You know, we're live on Facebook, and I do always love to be live on Facebook because it's really cool for people. If you want to put the Networking Arizona in on your Facebook, you can watch us in here live doing the show, so it's kind of neat. My next guest has been on with me, over a couple of years now, at least. Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, it's hard to remember. We were just trying to think about how fast the time has been going. I have with me Sandy Greenlee. She's the owner of Angels Cremation and Burial. And, you know, you, Sandy, you work in, I hate to say this, you work in death, but you also experience death as well.
Yes.
And I'm going to let you just talk because you've had a lot going on and you've experienced a lot of that lately. And I'm sure that a lot of people out there that are listening can relate because sometimes people go when you least expect it.
Amen to that one.
Mhm.
I mean, I used to say that my stepfather was 94 years old, but he was in perfect health. He didn't even have a cause to get on. He didn't have a cause of death to get on hospice because he didn't have any disease process. He dumps the garbage. He cooks his own breakfast. He waits for me for dinner. He's got these big dreams of building a cabin in the mountains, and he's going to leave it to me when he dies in another 10 or 20 years. And he collects junk. But anyway, he fell, and 2 weeks later, he was gone. And we thought we were so organized. We had this neat little trust. We had everything in it. We had all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And in November, he decided to sell a piece of property on contract for deed and didn't tell anybody he was doing that.
Well, I don't even know.
And so you don't want to do contract for deed. I've heard that's the worst way in the world to sell property, but he did it. But he didn't do it in his trust, and so now I have to go through probate, which is another exciting thing. And so even though you think your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed, plan for the worst because it might happen anyway. I mean, we've been planning this for probably 7 or 8 years, maybe 10 years, I can't even remember. Thought we had everything all organized, every piece.
And you would think,
dots.
right?
Yep.
But you know, that had nothing to do, that was something you could never know.
No.
But that's the thing. Let me just tell you, folks, and we're going to say this first. God picks his flowers when he wants to pick his flowers. That's what you
right.
always say.
Yep.
But it's always after they're gone that you find the things that they've been doing all along that you had no idea over.
That's exactly right. So have good open communication with your family members. And if they're talking about selling something, make sure that you know about it before it happens so that you can plan ahead.
Yeah, you know, and planning ahead. That's what, if you put a header on this, radio segment, and when you come on, it's planning ahead.
That's right. And I have loved ones that their families are fighting over whether they're going to cremate or bury, and I'm here to tell you I cannot do both. So somebody has to compromise, and if they don't compromise, guess where you end up? In court. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be a fun day.
And the other thing that happens is the person that I'm assuming that is waiting for that to happen is going to be in the refrigerator.
Oh yes, for 2 months or more.
Oh gosh, that's a sickening thought.
It is, but
yeah.
It's the reality of
How
life.
many times does that happen?
Well, I don't know how many times it happens. In my world, it's happened 3 or 4 times, which is 3 or 4 times way too many.
So, and that, once you know that, doesn't that make you feel like, that gives you the heebie-jeebies of that, thinking of that?
It just makes me sad because nobody can have closure. And that is the hardest part. Closure is such an important part. And whatever it is you need for your closure. I mean, I have a brother that doesn't need anything except to be left alone. I am the person who has to have some kind of a service to say they're gone and I love them and I missed them and they're okay. I have grandchildren that do not do closure at all. We're still praying for them in heaven because they need our prayers because we had them praying for them before they passed away. Mm-hmm. And so they're still praying for them. And so, whatever that closure is you have to discover that for yourself. And the most important thing is to make sure that you know what that is and you've talked about it in advance so that it can happen the way you want it to happen.
And if you're going to talk about it in advance and you're going to want to have it happen the way you want it to happen,
put it in writing.
But not only put it in writing, get it notarized. I mean, that is something huge that people don't even think about anymore, and everything needs to be notarized these days. And let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, and lawyer, I can't even tell you how many people walk in with this great big huge thick binder and said, we've got everything all in here, it's all said and done. And I said, well, then find a paper that says they want to be cremated, or you get to make the decision about final disposition. And they look and they read and they call their lawyer and they say, oh, that's not necessary. And I look at them and say, well, maybe in the lawyer's book it's not necessary, but if I'm going to cremate you, it's definitely necessary because it's the law. And so, sometimes it's no big deal. You have 2 kids and they're happy to sign the paperwork. Maybe sometimes there's a spouse and they're happy to sign the paperwork. But sometimes they're not, and it becomes a war.
I'm going to tell you.
And so if you know what you want, put it in writing, have it notarized, tell everybody, put it on your fridge, put it in your purse. I don't care where you put it. But have more than one person know about it. It's not a big secret, because if that person doesn't like your choices, you're not going to know until after they're gone.
Now let me tell you something about Sandy. The most real person I've ever met in my entire life, really. And I know a lot of people. But what I love about you is being real. You say it like it is. You said all the time when you come here, a cremation is a cremation is a cremation. So it doesn't really matter where you get that. If you want to spend thousands of dollars on a cremation, you certainly can. But Sandy, please tell everybody at your mortuary how much it costs.
A basic cremation, meaning that your loved one is within our mileage, which is approximately 25 miles away from our mortuary, they're under 200 pounds, is $635.
I mean, hello. And the reason is because you're not dealing with all the fancy stuff. I mean, that's really what you're paying. You're not paying for their all their stuff.
We don't have Berber carpet, and we don't have crystal chandeliers. We don't have all the. I had a gentleman in yesterday wanting to have a service, and he said, well, don't you have those candeliers that you put candles in beside the casket? And I said, no, but there's mortuaries that have those if you want those. We are really down-to-earth, basic, no-nonsense mortuary. We do services, we do funerals, we do cremations, we do burials, we do science donations, we do ship-outs. We've shipped 3 people out of 2 different countries this last month. But the bottom line is we're simple. We don't have all of the elaborate things. When you drive into our mortuary, it's pretty much just plain. It's a mortuary. It's clean, it's neat, it's well-painted, but it's not something that's got lots of fancy dancies to it.
And you don't necessarily have to have fancy. Everybody's cutting in these days, and when you think about it, and I love your story with the casket, that the guy came in there and he was going to spend, he said, I got to have the best. And what did you say?
How much are you willing to pay to look at that casket per hour?
I love that, because really when you think about it, how true is that? And once it goes down and it's done, that's it. You're not going to see it anymore.
That's right. Most people don't see a casket for more than 3 or 4 hours maximum.
And that's it. Now, we're talking about pre-planning. What we're talking about here is that things happen way sooner than you think could happen, and we want you to be ready and prepared, and that's what it's all about.
That's right, and don't put it off till tomorrow, because you don't know when tomorrow is going to come.
Now, their phone number is 480-962-6435, which is 96 Angels, so 480-962-6435. The website is angelscremationandburial.com. Please get on top of this now when you're listening to this. Maybe you have dinner tonight with everybody and say, you're going to love the conversation I want to talk about right now, but it's probably the best conversation you could ever have. And we've said this before. People in America, they don't talk about death like they do in other countries. Mm-hmm. Death is inevitable, right?
That's right. There's one thing you're never going to get out of life, and that's alive. Everybody is going to die.
So, but again, if you're going to get cremated, we're going to say this again. A cremation is a cremation, and yours are?
$635.
$635. So let me just say, if you're going to do that, you don't have to spend a lot of money. It's your choice, whatever you do, but you really don't have to spend a lot of money. We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk further about some of the other things that you can do. And the phone number to call is 480-962-6435. The website is angelscremationandburial.com. We're going to keep on going.
That's okay.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about, all the other stuff, because we do talk about cremation a lot, but there's so much more that you do.
That's 80% of the people.
It is 80%. We're going to talk about that too when
70
we
to
get back.
80% of people in Maricopa County cremate.
Because they can't do it
They can't-
anymore.
Well, and the prices keep going up. I mean, I went to the grocery store for the
Everything
first time.
does.
My kids do 90% of my shopping.
Mhm.
I was like, a bottle of ragu was $8. I said, what?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's like eggs.
Oh yeah, $30 for 5 dozen?
I mean,
Or
that's
for 3
ridiculous.
dozen?
Yeah, they're a
It's
lot of
like,
money.
yeah. And so everything is
They're
going
having
up.
this thing, I'd like to try and see if I can find out how to get this on my show. Rent a hen. I think it's a great idea.
I have a neighbor who brings me fresh eggs because she likes me.
That's nice. She's
I
good
don't
to
eat a
have
lot
now,
of
she'll
eggs.
start charging you. So let's talk a little bit about some of the other things that you do as well,
Okay.
because, I think that's important
Well,
for them to hear.
we do funerals. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
I buried my dad. He didn't want to be cremated.
Mhm.
And I called my casket company. I'm not going to say this on the air. But I called my casket company. I said, do you have some beat up thing that's old and dilapidated?
Oh,
That fits my his personality. But they had one made out of barnwood. And it was so perfect. It even had, when he got it there was a loose board on the top of it. He said, oh, we'll take the bag and bring it in. Oh, no, you won't. That's perfect.
oh, wow. Well, you know something, when you think about it, I mean, no matter what, when you're down under, or if you're even being cremated, I mean, is it really worth it to do all of that? I don't think so.
Well, it's
I
not
mean,
my
even
world.
if let's say I was to find myself on the floor in my house and they find me and they gotta take me out, they gotta do that in something too, I think, from what I understand. And you can either pay a lot of money for that. I mean, everything has
Everything
a
has
choice and a
tag.
price. I gotcha.
Everything has a price tag. Everything unfortunately has a price tag.
Hmm.
Everything has a price tag.
Everything. And it's just goes up and up and up.
I know. I mean, I had to get gas today and my employees to get my gas. It's like, what? $70 to fill my gas tank?
I know.
I
That's
was
why I
over
always
50.
keep a half a tank in there, that way it doesn't hurt so bad.
I'm spoiled. My employees, when they fill the mortuary vans, they just usually take the flying van.
You gotta pay for all that too, huh?
Oh, yes.
Here we go. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Sandy Greenlee, and she's the owner of Angels Cremation and Burial. Now, we have talked a lot about cremation. We do, because you said 70 to 80% of the people that you
In
deal
Maricopa
with
County,
in Maricopa County,
in Arizona, do
in
cremation.
Arizona, do cremation. And I'm sure that is just going to keep on going up, because the prices of everything is going up, and there is a price tag on everything. We were just talking about that at the break. But you do a lot of things there, and let's talk about some of them.
Well, we do. I mean, a lot of people want to do a science donation, and the important thing to know about a science donation is they cannot have a contagious disease, and they have to be contacted by the science people within 3 days. If it's been over 3 days, most people will reject you. And you can do it in advance if you want to do it in advance, but then if you have a contagious disease, you're back to square one. So it's always nice to have a mortuary so that if you don't have, even if you get a contagious disease at the end, you always have a place to fall back on. You don't have to find a mortuary at that point in time. And they usually pay for the cremation. Some places they only pay a portion depending on the mortuary that you go to, or the science donation place that you go to. The one that we use happens to be in Tucson, and they pay for your entire cremation. There's some other rules and regulations, but the most important one is you can't have a contagious disease. They have to have you within 3 days of the death. They do have a weight ratio, so if your loved one is really overweight or underweight, you may not qualify. And so it helps a lot of people to be able to have their loved one cremated. They get back what's left after they've taken whatever they want for the donation. We also do ship outs. We sent some to Indonesia, to Micronesia, and to Mexico this last month. And those are always challenging, but they're possible. They're extremely, extremely expensive. And so if you're even thinking about having a loved one sent overseas, you need to think about the money issue of that. Some people do cremate and send the cremains over, to their hometown. But we do that. And we always allow the families to have an hour to spend time with their loved one, because not everybody can go to the services because they're so far away and they're so expensive. The other thing we do is just plain old everyday burials. We do gravesides, which means we have the service at the graveside. There's the loved one is not embalmed, which will save a lot of money. They're not dressed. And so that's an advantage there. Or we can do the regular traditional funeral where we embalm and dress and casket and have a viewing and a service. And there are fewer and fewer of those kind of people around because of the expense of those. And then you have the cemetery, you have the outer burial container, and eventually you'll have a headstone. And if you're looking at cemeteries, you want to ask them what their headstone requirements are, because some of the cemeteries require nothing but bronze, which is much more expensive than granite. Some of them require you to have the headstone in place within 6 months. That means it's more expensive because you've got the funeral on top of the headstone. Some cemeteries you can do it whenever you want, which is nice, so that if you're having financial problems, that you've got that. The other thing you need to know, a lot of people go out and buy insurance. If you have any medical history at all, you have to live at least 3 years in order for the insurance to pay out the amount that you have. Otherwise, all they pay back is the premiums that you've paid in. And so that becomes questionable because people don't read the fine line, the fine print, and some people who are selling insurance don't point that out to you. They want the commission, they want to make the money off of it. So those are just some things that you need to be aware of and you need to look for, you need to watch out for.
I think that what people also need to understand with you is when you come in, first of all, you're lovely to them. You know, you really are very caring. They become your family members, basically.
Yes,
really
they
are
do.
very much.
We really care about our families. In fact, we support our families after their loved one has passed for a year. We send them cards and we send them notes and we let them know that we are there to help them in whatever way we can.
Now, their phone number is 480-962-6435, which is 96 Angel. So 480-962-6435. Check out the website too, because I've been on your website and it's I love the way that you explain it all. You explain a lot of stuff and it's very simple the way that it's set up. Angels with an S, cremation and burial.com. And you have been doing this, what you do here in the Valley, how long?
25 years.
25 years, and it's amazing. And what mostly that I feel from you is everybody has a story when they walk in. There's got to be a different story with each person, but you help them make some good decisions. You try your best to guide them to be able to not be spending crazy amount of money. You offer them whatever they're looking at, but you show them other ways as well.
Well, I always tell people the most important thing is to educate people. I mean, we go to school for 12 years, most of us. We have a high school diploma. But did anybody ever teach us about grief? Did anybody ever teach us about having somebody buried? Did they teach us about how to compare shopping at the grocery store? Did they tell us how to look for what is good about a car? They teach us so much that in my lifetime I've never used. But because of the School of Hard Knocks, I've learned a lot of things that have helped me as I've gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do my very best to educate people. Some people, don't want to be educated. They know what they want, and that's fine. If you know what you want, then go for it if you can afford it. But if you don't know what you want, or you're kind of on the curb trying to figure out whether you want to step off or not, then get some information, get educated, make decisions.
Her number is 480-962-6435. It's angelscremationandburial.com. I want to, say this, because you talked a lot about the different things that you do. And when you say cremation, we usually stop right there. But, people want to do things with the cremation, the cremains. Okay, so can you have a funeral even though there's been a cremation?
Well, you can have a funeral first, or you can have what's called a memorial service afterwards with a picture and the cremains. But you can have like a traditional funeral, and instead of going to the cemetery, you go to the crematory.
Can they be scattered?
Yes, they can.
Okay, and then, okay, I just wanted to say, this is another big one that you said. The number one question I think you get asked besides money, and I'm not sure if this is right or not, is are they cremated by themselves or with other people?
They have to be, and the crematorium is not big enough to cremate more than one person at a time. That's not even an option to put more than one. It's against the law, number one. But number two, the retort is not that big.
The other thing that I wanted to ask you, between the pros and the cons of either burial or cremation, are there, what you could say, a lot of them, or is it just strictly money?
There's religious beliefs, there's personal beliefs, there's I want what I want when I want it beliefs. And so, the thing of it is I mean, I have a very diversified family. I have a daughter that absolutely 100% believes the only thing you can do is be buried. I have a son who is just the absolute opposite, thinks the only thing you can do is be cremated. And so it doesn't matter whether they're all your family members or they're the neighbors, but the thing of it is you need to do what you need to do and allow your family to walk their path in peace. My mother was going to be cremated. She decided not to be because of my daughter. And my stepfather was so ecstatic. He said, "Oh, thank you, Debbie. I'm so glad your mom is not being cremated, or your grandmother's not being cremated." And so, talk, open your mouth, ask questions, tell people what you want. And if you're going to do a cremation, get the paperwork. It's on my website. It's free. Get it notarized. If you can't afford a notary, come to my office. I'll notarize it for free. It tells you what you want. You want to be cremated. What you want to have done with the cremains. It's important because otherwise, if you're cremated, then we have to know what to do with the cremains. We can't just throw them away. We can't just give them to Joe Smo or whoever walks in the door. So make sure you get that paperwork done and you get it notarized.
Notarized, because it's the most important thing. And I know that people may have done it a long time ago. Please get all of those things out, dust them off once in a while, and have them even looked at. And can you help people?
Yes.
With that, and that is what you're all about, is helping people and making this, listen, folks, you're gonna be dead, okay? And I know that, it's terrible for me to say it that way, and everyone here is laughing, but the truth is that's it. But everybody else that's left over that's gonna be sitting here, number one, fighting. Is that what you want? Is that what you want them to be fighting? Do you want to be in a refrigerator for how many days was it? It could be up to a lot. I mean,
Yeah, depending on the course of your.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting cold thinking about that, I mean, but it can make it so much easier if everyone would just make the plans, have them written down, get out what you want. She said, use your mouth and get out what you want, tell people about it, and write it down and notarize it.
That's right.
Is there anything special, like one special piece of paper that they need the most?
The power of attorney.
Power of attorney is the number one.
You can get it off the Attorney General website. It's very wonderful. It says, do you want to be inundated? Do you want to have life support? Do you want to have this? Do you want your body given to science? It has everything on it. It's free. It's on the Attorney General's website. Look it up, get it out, sign it, fill it out, notarize it.
Notarize it. That's the most important thing. But don't forget that that's the last step that has to be done. And again, everybody listening, I know you can all relate to this. Sometimes these things happen suddenly. Sometimes we're waiting and waiting and waiting for it to happen. But you know what? It all is going to happen no matter what. But please, this is the one thing why Sandy comes on this show the most, is to educate you people out there. She goes through it every single day. I don't know how many times a day. You must have to go through this. But she's walked the talk. She does it. And she knows what you're going through. She does every single situation that comes up. She's probably already been through because she's been doing this here for 25 years. Make it easier for everybody else. If not for you, for everyone else that's left over. Check her out on her website. It's angelscremationandburial.com. Her phone number is 480-962-6435.